Just when you think it cannot get any worse for the Chicago White Sox, they get shut out for the 10th time in Minnesota. Let's discuss next on Lockdown White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And hello, I'm Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fansided Network. You can check out my written content at southsideshowdown.com. I've also covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And hey, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, smash the like button, and give a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, as that would be greatly appreciated. All right, well, the Sox got shut out for the 10th time this season when they lost to the Minnesota Twins 7-0 yesterday. No other Major League Baseball team has done that to start the season. The Sox are truly one of one when it comes to being terrible. It's game 22 for the White Sox, and 45% of those, they can't play to run. I'll discuss how things continued to get worse in the Twin Cities yesterday. I'm going to go over 2 bad Pedro Grifol comments, and then we will pivot to 2 terrible roster decisions the Sox made yesterday. But today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side. I'm a human being. And if you don't have a competitive side, well, you're a perfect being, I guess. And it is a big, and my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. So rookie pitcher Jonathan Cannon, he was on the mound yesterday, and he was not able to follow up his solid debut when he pitched really well against Kansas City last week. He only lasted 3 2/3 innings. He gave up 6 runs, allowed 9 hits, walked 1, and struck out 5. In the first inning, he ran into some trouble after allowing a walk with 2 outs. And a couple of pitches, he just could not get past those Twins bats, and they were able to put up 2 runs to start the game. He got through a clean second, but then he left a couple pitches out over the plate, and the Twins racked up 3 more runs. He then, the Twinkies then added another one in the 4th. But those starts are going to happen. Jonathan Cannon, it's his second Major League start. There's probably now a book on him. What he did do well is he at least started to mix in his pitches. I know in his first start, he started off, I think, relying mostly on his sinker. And then he started to mix in his pitches. This time he came out, and, he's going to have one of those starts. But let's see if the White Sox organization allows him to have more, and hopefully let him get better. We're going to discuss that, how that's related in the third segment today. Coffee sip for a second. Using the White Sox mug today for those listening via podcast. As you know, I do love my coffee. Again, went with the Blue Healer for those scoring at home. I do have like a weekend coffee where I actually grind it up. I get the beans on that. I call it my special coffee. I'll admit, I'm a coffee snob. But the problem for the White Sox in this game was the bats. Again. And hey, when you're trying to improve clubhouse chemistry and the defense, well, I guess scoring runs gets sacrificed. The Sox made Chris Paddock look like Frank Viola out there. For those too young to remember, he was one of the Twins' ace pitchers back in the day when I was growing up. He had an 8.36 ERA coming into this game. He gave up 9 runs in his last outing to the Baltimore Orioles. And he goes 7 innings strong with 10 Ks. Sox had 8 hits in this game, all singles, just 1 walk. Okay, so when you're struggling, stop free swinging, stop pressing. And I get that's the natural reaction in baseball. I just got to keep going more. Keep taking pitches. Have more productive outs if you need to. Foul them off. Run up the pitch count. The Sox just don't do that. And then when they were making contact, it was, in essence, singles contact. And when you're down 7-0, you can't just be hitting singles. Also, it's kind of hard to generate offense when 7 of your 9 hitters in yesterday's lineup were hitting under 250, and 6 have a slugging percentage under 400. Danny Mendick is not going to be able to solve that. And the Sox are now dead last in team batting average at 190. On base, they're also dead last in slugging percentage. OPS, they have 45. OPS, they have, and then runs, they have 45 on the season. Number 29 has 65. And they're also dead last in home runs. Now, this would be acceptable if this roster was made up of a bunch of young guys just trying to find their way. At least there was some promise. This is a veteran-laden lineup. They are guys who have supposedly done this before. That's what we keep hearing. Keep hearing. It's just a matter of time. These guys can hit eventually. They're going to play up to their standards. Andrew Vaughn is going to break out of this slump any day now. And it's not happening. Now, you could say it's April, and yeah, it's early. But at some point, these struggles turn into more than just slumps. They turn into bad seasons. And that's why this is so frustrating. It's supposed veteran players that you're hoping would, produce somewhat close to their career seasons. And some of them haven't even had a career season yet. I'm talking about you, Andrew Vaughn. To have some success in a weak division. Because that's what they kept citing. Well, we're still in the AL Central. We still got a shot. No, you don't. And I get that the White Sox, I was listening to the Sox Machine podcast yesterday. I believe it was Jim Margulis who brought up the point. I get that the clubhouse was so toxic and that the Sox had such a bad reputation. It was going to be really, really hard to bring in quality players. But you can still pay a premium to get them to come, and they didn't do that. They went with the cheap, and this is what they're getting. They're getting a cheap offense. They're getting an offense that's non-competitive, that is making runs look like it, scoring runs is actually against the rules. And it's just really, really tough to watch. But don't worry if you're listening to this and you don't want to watch it, but you just want to keep, tabs. I'm going to do it for you. I'll torture myself. I've seen worse. Well, actually not this. This is historically worse because they're off to the worst start in franchise history. And it's not like this team hasn't been around since 1900. Well, what was Pedro Grifol's reaction to this? We'll discuss the manager's reaction next on Locked On White Sox. All right, so there was a time I'm a Marquette grad. I needed an extra ticket to the Marquette game last year, and I was hoping to find a decent price. Checked all over, nothing. Now I know if I want to get a good ticket at a great price, I'm using Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. That's right. You don't even have to go to the stadium and, walk around. I used to do that back in the day, when it was Miller Park or even Guaranteed Rate, and finding, hey, is there somebody that's just desperate to offload these? No, you can just go on an app. I'm definitely using Game Time for when the Sox come to Milwaukee to face the Brewers. I got my eye on a $3 Terrence reserve ticket for the Friday game. I get a view on the app of where my seat will be, and maybe I'll change my mind and go with that $20 bleacher seats that I'm also seeing on the app. The lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your Game Time ticket coverage means your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Locked On MLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And hey, life insurance, not something we like to think about, and it can be time consuming in finding the best policy at the best rate. Well, with Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Hey, I'm a parent. I know I need life insurance in case, God forbid, something happens to me. I'm not leaving my wife with nothing. That's why, I have a life insurance policy. And you might think, hey, I got a life insurance policy through work. Well, your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. Even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Policy Genius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. They have no incentives to recommend one insurer over the other, so you can trust their guidance. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. And are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down that volume with all that shouting? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And welcome back into Locked On White Sox. Again, I'm your host, Todd Welter. I'm in a toxic relationship with the White Sox, and I don't know how to solve it. We've tried couples therapy. The White Sox just don't want to show up. And they keep trotting out Pedro Grifol as the manager. And according to John Heyman, he was on 670 The Score. Don't expect him to get fired anytime soon. Although if this organization wants to be about accountability, like they keep saying, like Getz and Grifol, something has to happen because this start is unacceptable. Again, we knew it was going to be bad, but this is the bad of the bad. This is like the sum of all fears. I mean, you can watch bad, kind of from that, almost like watching a train wreck. But this is beyond a train wreck. This is a dumpster fire on top of a hot mess, on top of a car wreck, on top of a train wreck. And what did our manager, Pedro Grifol, have to say? Well, according to James Fegan, he tweeted this out at JR Fegan, our record sucks. Oh, quote, our record sucks, says Pedro Grifol. What are you going to do about it? We've got to come out tomorrow and get ready to play, end quote. That is Pedro Grifol's go-to when it comes to when things keep getting bad, which got to come out tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow keeps getting worse. You got swept in Philly. Nope, just got to flush it. Got to flush it. The frustrating thing about Pedro Grifol is he can't be a human. And maybe he got that sitting at the side of Ned Yost. I covered Ned Yost back in the day, and that was another guy who would talk like this. And it's like, just be human. It's baseball. Yeah, you could say, hey, it's early. We're not going to panic. We know last year the season got out of hand, but we're just not going to panic. We're going to keep working. You make jokes. I mean, you technically have ties to Bobby Cox. Bobby Cox used to laugh that stuff all the time. I know because I covered him. Ozzie Guillen, what was it? Chuck Garfien on the White Sox Talk podcast even said, like, Ozzie said this off the record, but Chuck said he could share it. What would have Ozzie done? Ozzie said, during this, he would have gone home, got a little liquored up. Next morning, wake up with a hangover, have his wife fill out the lineup card. Kind of make it fun, kind of make it relaxing for the players. Joe Madden, 8675309. But Pedro, it's like, well, just coming out tomorrow. I mean, this is the guy that reaction to me is like the meme with the dog where everything is on fire. And he takes a sip of his coffee and says, "This is fine." I mean, Scott Merkin threw this quote on X yesterday in the pregame at scottmerkin.com. Grifol, quote, "I can tell you this, rest assured that everything that happens in this ball club, on the field, off the field, that affects us being able to win a baseball game or affects the integrity and the character of this organization is being addressed." End quote. I'm going to call you know what on that. Because Andrew Vaughn is in a total funk, and only one time did you consider benching him. And the reason why he wasn't benched was because the game got rained out. And guess where he was? He was back in the lineup. Dropping guys down in the lineup is not accountability. Andrew Benintendi should not be playing right now. I don't care if he makes, if he has a $75 million contract. He's not playing hard in the field. He's taking terrible lines to the ball. It looks like he's like, well, I cashed out. And that's from what I see. So don't be like, well, he's doing them. That's how I interpret it. He's basically been cashing in checks, and you could actually bench him for a couple of games. He shouldn't even be playing right now. And I know I'm going to contradict myself when I was saying Pedro should just say, hey, it's early, but you really can't claim it's too early. You can't have this swagger, this attitude that it's like, well, it's April, it's baseball, because the same thing is happening from last year. You got off to a terrible start, and you could say, well, the clubhouse just wasn't good. That's why we couldn't get out of that tailspin. Well, this year, you improved the clubhouse. Where's the talent? It's not there. You are on pace to be worse than the 2003 Detroit Tigers. And it's just these, you can even have humorous stuff. He just cannot do that. That's why, again, he's in over his head. He's not the guy that should be leading this ball club. And it's not like you don't have Charlie Montoya sitting there. It's just, that's what keeps getting frustrating. The team is terrible on the field, and then you've got this manager who puts his head in the sand and is like, well, flush it. We're going to hit tomorrow. I mean, I get if you don't want to overreact, but at some point, just realize that you are talking to an audience that is absolutely frustrated and that will not give you the benefit of the doubt. Figure out a better way to communicate, at least. All right, we're going to talk about two bad roster decisions the White Sox made yesterday. Next on Locked On White Sox. Guys, I need you all to listen up for this huge announcement. I've been tracking the leaderboards every day, keeping my eye on the scores, putting all my heart into it, and I'm super pumped to announce I'm finally on top. That's right, obviously. I'm talking about the hit mobile game, Monopoly Go. You've probably heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great mobile twist on classic Monopoly. You can play anywhere, anytime. You could explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Las Vegas to Camelot to the moon, all while raking in a huge fortune. I already built up New York. Now I'm on to London, baby. Charge rent on iconic properties just like classic Monopoly. Oh, you're paying more than $500 on Boardwalk when you play me. You can charge your friends rent on your iconic properties or go after their Monopoly money by pulling bank heists and taking wrecking balls to their landmarks. But my favorite part in the leaderboards where you can see who's a Monopoly tycoon and and who's gone bankrupt. So, go get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store and Google Play. And welcome back into Lockdown White Sox. Again, I'm your host, Todd Welter. Want to thank you for sticking with me this long, especially you everydayers. Hope hope there's better days as White Sox fans. For those watching on YouTube, you can see I at least added some White Sox decorations. I'm trying to decorate the office. For those listening via podcast, I found I went to, I believe, a game in 2015 where they were giving out the commemorative 2005 championship banner. So I decided to hang it. My wife saw it and said, "What are you doing to my basement?" So it's a temporary. I'm going to try to find better decorations for you guys. Um, so the White Sox made two roster moves yesterday. They had to make a move on the 40-man roster because Danny Mendick is back. Had a couple of hits last night. But to make room on the 40-man roster, the Sox had to designate someone for assignment, and it was Zach Remillard. Wrong guy. Yes, I know. I'm going to die on this hill. I wrote about it on Southside Showdown. But Zach Remillard should not have been the guy designated for assignment. It should have been Lenny and Sosa. He was the one that got demoted. He's the one that put up a 132, 154, 184 slash line and 48 bats this season. He had a -8 WRC plus, and he just can't hit Major League Baseball he just can't hit at the Major League level. He's shown that. He's proved that. Yes, it's a small sample size, but it's enough to show that this guy cannot hit Major League Baseball pitching. And he made 3 bad defensive gaffes. At least Zach Remillard, when called upon, when pressed upon, can maybe give you a hit or two more than Sosa. Also, poor guy. It's the second time he's been DFA'd in 2024. And I get he's 30. He wasn't hitting in AAA. But again, he has a 252 average in 160 big league at bats compared to Sosa, who is career batting average is way, way lower than that. Also, Nick Nastrini, the rookie pitcher, he was demoted. Had a rough start on Sunday, but the rookie only gets 2 career starts. He's headed back down for Chris Flexen. Yeah. Now, Flexen did come in for long relief yesterday. Did all right, just gave up a home run. But in his 3, there was a reason why he was moved to the bullpen. And the Sox are going to choose him, a veteran who has been on the decline since last year. He's had 2 solid seasons, but before that, when he was with the Mets, he was basically a mini dumpster fire on the mound. He's more of that than he is the solid starter he was in 21 and 22 with the Mariners. And yet the White Sox are going to trot him out. Again, there is nothing to gain if Chris Flexen continues to struggle. He's making $1.75 million. Designate him for assignment if you needed to make room. Because John Breba, he also returned from the IL, so obviously they needed a room in the bullpen. I get somebody had to go, but it should have been Chris Flexen. You're not going to get any trade return for him. He's not going to be somebody off the scrap heap that you could flip for, say, Jake Arrieta, like the Cubs did when they got Jake Arrieta. I forgot the pitcher who they flipped, but it was some guy they found off the scrap heap. And that's the other thing. Jonathan Cannon, I'm totally afraid of, is going to be demoted again, or sent back down for Mike Clevenger. We're going to continue to go with these veterans. Why? The season is lost. You're not just going to, Tommy Pham is not going to come up and magically carry the offense. He'll provide some professional at-bats, great. But I'd rather see Oscar Colas try again. Because again, he still has some upside. It sometimes still takes some guys a little bit to figure it out. Not Lenyn Sosa. He's been given plenty of opportunities. But we're doing this. And maybe they are thinking, well, we can flip these guys from our prospects if they just perform like that one career year. It was a career year, and that's it. Move on. There's nothing wrong with trying to figure out, but they needed short leashes. You know who needs patience? Nick Nastrini and Jonathan Cannon. It's part of the growing process. As I wrote about it in Southside Showdown. Anybody remember when Lucas Giolito was the worst pitcher in baseball, according to Stephen A? But then Lucas Giolito became one of the, for a brief moment, the ace of the staff. That's what they need to be focusing on right now. The focus should be using whatever was left over from the previous regime in the farm that has any value to see if they can do anything at the major league level. But instead, it's just more of the same, expecting different results. And that's what we call insanity, folks. And that's White Sox baseball, where nothing good can happen. Well, this wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Before I go, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV's channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV's channels app. All right, so we'll be back tomorrow to talk about the Sox being led by a manager way in over his head. And let me know your thoughts on today's topics regarding the Sox continuing to find new ways to hit rock bottom on Twitter at ToddJDub. You can email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Locked On White Sox is also on Twitter or X, and then also on Instagram and TikTok. So have a great day. I will see you tomorrow.